Welcome to The Explainer. A huge hello to all the 8th grade students joining us today. So, did you know there are an estimated 8.7 million different species on Earth, and we've only discovered a tiny fraction of them? Today, we're diving right into this vibrant, incredibly complex, and perfectly balanced system we call home. We're going to look at exactly how God's creation works in such perfect harmony. Let's get right to it.
But before we get into the hard science of how these ecosystems actually operate, we really have to start at the foundation. Genesis 1:31 tells us, God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. You see, appreciating this massive variety of life on Earth really begins with recognizing the intentionality of his design. Nothing is an accident here. Every single living thing was purposefully placed to sustain this incredible world of ours.
So, here's our roadmap for today. First, what is biodiversity? Second, the 3 levels of life. Third, why does variety matter? And finally, education, morality, and peace. All right, jumping right into section 1. What is biodiversity? And that brings up your very first homework question for today. What exactly is biodiversity? I really want you to keep this in the back of your mind as we go through these next few concepts. Don't just sit back and wait for the answer. I want you to actively think about the unbelievable variety of life buzzing, swimming, and growing all around you right this second. Well, here's the formal answer. Biodiversity is the variety of all life that makes Earth vibrant, balanced, and beautiful. We aren't just talking about lions and bears here. We're talking about the whole shebang. Plants, animals, fungi, and even the tiny, invisible microbes literally living on your eyelashes right now. It's the sum total of all these living things interacting together that keeps our planet functioning. So why does all this matter? Well, biodiversity isn't just about having a high head count of animals in a rainforest. It's about life in total balance. Every single species has a specific purpose. Together, they support these incredibly complex food chains. They purify the air we breathe, and they clean the water we drink. Did you know a ton of our natural medicine comes directly from this variety too? It's true. From the smallest bacteria to the biggest blue whale, they act like a global immune system, all working together to keep ecosystems perfectly healthy. Okay, let's move on to section 2, the 3 levels of life, which leads to your next homework hook. Name and describe the 3 types of biodiversity. We're going to break this down level by level, starting from the animals we can clearly see, zooming way down to the genes we can't, and then zooming way back out to the wide landscapes we live in. Make sure you take some mental notes here. Okay, level 1 is species diversity. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's the sheer number of different species living together in a specific ecosystem. Just think about the incredible richness of the Amazon rainforest. In just 1 square mile, you've got jaguars prowling the canopy, brightly colored orchids blooming everywhere, and literally millions of leafcutter ants marching along the forest floor. That high species diversity supports a brilliantly stable food web where everyone plays a critical part. Now we're zooming in even further, from the broad species level down to the microscopic level. Think about this next homework question. Why is genetic diversity important for a species? What exactly happens when we look at the invisible differences between animals of the exact same kind? Well, this brings us to level 2, genetic diversity. This is the variation of genes within a single species. Think of it as nature's ultimate backup plan. Let's use a population of dogs as an example. Because of genetic diversity, some dogs might be naturally resistant to a specific virus. Now, if every single dog had the exact same genes, like zero diversity, one single new disease could wipe out the entire pack. So genetic variety is this amazing built-in defense mechanism, helping species adapt, survive, and even thrive through diseases or major climate shifts. All right, let's zoom all the way back out for level 3, ecosystem diversity. This is the variety of entirely different ecosystems, the baking deserts, the dense forests, the soggy wetlands, and the vast oceans. None of these exist in a vacuum. They're constantly interacting, exchanging nutrients and weather patterns to support life across the entire globe. Each type of biodiversity adds a vital layer of resilience to God's creation. Moving right along to section 3, why does variety matter? Here's a homework question that deals with a very real threat, guys. What can happen to an ecosystem with low biodiversity? If variety is the glue that keeps an ecosystem strong and healthy, what actually happens when we start stripping that variety away? The answer is pretty drastic. On one hand, I want you to imagine a massive cornfield. It's essentially just one crop, right? Extremely low biodiversity. If a specific beetle that loves corn sweeps through, that field is an all-you-can-eat buffet and the entire crop is destroyed. On the other hand, imagine a wild prairie. It is packed with high biodiversity, dozens of grasses, wildflowers, bees, and birds. Because of all that variety, the prairie is incredibly resilient. It barely flinches at drought or pests because so many different species are there to hold the system together.
So the absolutely crucial scientific takeaway here is this: when biodiversity decreases, ecosystems lose their safety nets and they become far more likely to collapse entirely. Think of it like a giant Jenga tower. Removing pieces of this perfectly designed system means the whole thing gets wobbly and unstable. When we protect biodiversity, we are literally protecting creation, and by extension, we're protecting our own supply of clean air, fresh water, and food. Which perfectly bridges us to your final homework question. How does biodiversity reflect God's creative power? We've looked at the hard science of ecological resilience, but understanding biodiversity does something more. It allows us to truly appreciate the sheer genius of His design. It teaches us to deeply value differences, not just in nature, but in each other, because every single part plays an absolutely essential role. And that brings us to Section 4, Education, Morality, and Peace. This ties right into the core philosophy of the HeroesmartAcademy Godly Learners series, intertwining biblical morality with education. Just like an ecosystem needs different, diverse parts to be healthy, your education needs a moral foundation to be truly effective. Academic knowledge is a powerful tool, for sure, but without a moral compass to guide how you use it, that toolkit is incomplete.
And there's a really profound reward for maintaining that balance. Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps his or her mind spiritual. This isn't just some abstract idea, it's a lived experience. When you align your incredible, God-given intellect with spiritual wisdom, the result is a deep, lasting peace. You become just like that resilient prairie, strong, balanced, and fully capable of weathering any storm life throws at you.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. Education without morality will ultimately hurt. Just as an ecosystem collapses without variety, what is the point of being incredibly smart if you continue making choices that damage yourself and the perfectly balanced world around you? True wisdom is using your knowledge to protect creation, value others, and live in harmony. So how will you use your education to keep the world balanced? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep thinking deeply, and I'll see you next time.